Alright, when it comes to warming up, do you know what you're doing? Because it's important to warm up effectively so that your performance when it comes to actual test time, when it comes to actual study time, isn't so badly affected. I know when I roll out of bed first thing in the morning and I don't warm up and I jump straight into a job, my writing is terrible for like the first 20 or 30 minutes because I didn't warm up first. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. I wrote a whole PDF on it. It's like 4 pages. I'm pretty much going to be reading off of that. And I'm not going to be doing too much ad-libbing. So if you're more of a reader, everything I'm going to say is on that PDF. But if you just want to listen to it, listen to my wonderful voice that's scratchy and dehydrated, you're more than welcome to. Alright, so it's titled How to Warm Up Academically, because I will do a physical warm-up sometime in the near future. How to warm up academically and more on focused practice. So this won't be just how to warm up, I'm going to teach you how to practice as well, effectively. Alright, let me zoom this in because I can't see. Dynamic warm-up focuses on performing small actions similar to the day's study session. Dynamic means constantly changing activity or progress and being full of energy. You're priming your brain to work at a higher intensity. In my opinion, diving into your studies cold without a warm-up can be too much of a shock and ineffective overall for some people. It's sort of like getting a dish straight out of the oven. It was at 400 degrees and then you suddenly dunk it into ice cold water. It's going to splinter apart, it's going to break. It didn't have a chance to adjust to the new temperature slowly and get acclimated. It's kind of like what I explained earlier, just getting out of bed and then going right into, you know, maybe high knee kicks or something like that. Because my knees could never, even after warming up, alright? Okay, so here's some suggestions for dynamic practicing. If you're a higher speed student, which is, in my opinion, around 175 to 125 words a minute, you may want to focus on challenging dictation, such as term-dense audio with long numbers, or dictation that includes foreign or unfamiliar accents. So your everyday job is not going to be crystal clear audio that you get at school. If you're a higher speed student, you need to start challenging yourself with impossible things. Alright, medium speed students, which in my opinion is about 100 words per minute to 175, you may want to focus on higher speed dictation and finger spelling or finger dexterity. It's time to start amping up your routine. It's time to start realizing that you're in the middle and you're about, the only way to go is higher. You're out of, being an infant steno student. Now you're starting to grow up and you want to start acting like it. If you're a low speed student, which in my opinion is about 10 to 100 words per minute, kind of low speeds, you might want to focus on word and phrase drills as well as get any and all trouble words out of the way. This is where you're coming out of theory and you want to stop looking at your theory. You want to stop focusing so much on remembering the briefs that you learned in theory, and you want to kind of start coming up with your own and start making the machine your friend, and coming up with briefs and overcoming hesitation, overcoming the flying fingers. We all kind of go through that. You want to get all of the initial problems out of the way so you're not still focusing on first, starting out steno student stuff and you're, at your 225s. If you're studying theory today, don't dive into intense speed building. Okay, when you warm up, you're going to want to stay in your lane. Okay, so if you're a theory student, stick to your theory. Stay in theory. Don't be like, well, I wonder what it's like over in speed building. It's not fun. Everything's on fire. Don't run into speed building. You'll get your chance. So if you're in speed building, let's not go backwards into theory. You already learned your theory. You already paid your dues. Stay in your speed building when you're warming up. It's so important to, like for theory students, for example, it's important to stay in your theory, because if you start going to the left or to the right instead of staying where you're supposed to, if instead of staying in your lane, you're going to get distracted, and your warm-up is going to be kind of pointless because you're not where you're supposed to be. You know, you're not doing your job. You're doing other people's job. Do your job. We all have that one person, you know, that doesn't do their job and they act like they're something else. Let's not be that person. A dynamic warm-up is ungraded and flexible. This is where I hope you're encouraged. Meaning you're free to make mistakes and you're free to find your rhythm within your warm-up in order to study effectively and gain that momentum that we all want that propels us towards our goal. So in other words, let me give you a mental illustration. To give you more of a mental illustration, a runner warms up before a race in order to find the rhythm and get rid of the pre-race jitters to prepare for that momentum that will get them to the finish line. You never see their warm-up included in their score because it doesn't count. The actual race counts, but what the runner does within that warm-up affects how they perform in the race. In other words, like I said, if you're busy warming up to something that's not on the test, your warm-up is going to be ineffective and you're going to be frustrated that you didn't pass the test. So if I'm a speed building student and I'm focusing on something that doesn't involve speed, the only thing that involves speed is endurance, speed, and accuracy. Those are the things that I should be focusing on when I'm a speed student. I shouldn't be going back to day one of theory and, you know, practicing my number bar or something like that. That's kind of useless. Like I said, if you're in a certain area of school, stay in that area. Don't go backwards, don't go forwards. If you're studying speed building, stop revisiting theory because you're afraid to go faster and you're just stalling. You already learned your theory, just keep going. More on how to actually warm up. This is for theory students. Warming up helps you accomplish today's goal. If I am in theory, I want to warm up by memorizing briefs, doing rapid-fire finger drills, pyramiding, creating personalized briefs, refreshing on previously learned theory, etc. Your warm-up should consist of a taste of the goal you want to accomplish for that day, but don't take too long. After you're done warming up, you should be ready and prepared to pass a test. Whether or not you pass it, you should be ready to take it. This is for speed students. Warming up helps you accomplish today's goal. If I am in speed, I want to warm up to the goal for today, which could be literary, testimony, or jury charge. Rapid finger drills, high-speed audio dictation, perfecting finger dexterity, and sharpening your knowledge of vocabulary are all things that will get you closer to that 225 goal. Your warm-up should consist of a taste of the goal that you want to accomplish. If you have to pass a written test, you may not need to warm up for this portion. You just need to dive right into the flashcards and learning what ex parte means. There's not really any warming up for a written test, except if you just gotta jump in. While the water's cold, it'll warm up the longer you're in there. If you're a speed student, this is kind of a side note, don't spend all of your time on the machine because there is a written test that you have to look forward to no matter what state you're in. In the US, you're going to have to pass a written test if you want to be nationally certified. So, do you know what habeas corpus means? No? Well, it's on the test. Okay, so you could be 300 words a minute, but if you can't pass the written test, you're not an RPR. You might be an RSR. We're getting off track. Alright, the mental blocks. Sometimes warm-ups can feel ineffective no matter how well you do them because the battle is in the mind, not the textbooks or fingers. How do you overcome things like procrastination, laziness, creating excuses, or legitimate discouragement? Since there is so much that could be said about this topic, I won't confine it to a bullet point or a message hidden within a different area of learning. So you don't have to look out for mental roadblocks when I'm talking about warming up. I'll create something separate for mental okay, it'll be different. I'll get there. All right, what to do after you've warmed up. So do you understand what it means to warm up? You want to get ready as much as you can for the machine. Where is my machine? You want to get ready as much as you can for the test. Okay, that means work on speed. That means work on your accuracy. That means work on your endurance. So For your speed, go as fast as you can. I don't care if you're messing up. I really don't care if you're dropping. Every single reporter is going to drop, and you're going to continue to drop even after you pass all your tests. But just go fast. Even if you misstroke. As far as accuracy, you're going to want to, okay, just because you're fast, you want things to be accurate. You want things to come up in English, not steno. Because if you want to be a real-time reporter and make that big money, attorneys and clients can't read stenography. They can read English. So you want your dictionary built. You want to lessen the amount of misstrokes and drops that you do. And endurance. If you can only sit for 60 seconds at a time, your first 8-hour deposition is going to take you out, just like it took me out. Because that's the mistake I made. I only practiced for X amount of time. Okay, my first deposition, that was 2 hours. I almost had to go to the ER, okay, because I was like, what is this? This was not the 5 minutes that I practiced for. All right, what to do once you've warmed up. Once you've accomplished your dynamic warm-up, consider the goal you want to accomplish by the time your study session is over. This is called focused practice. You're in the zone. You're not going to go to the left or to the right or an arbitrary direction. You're going to accomplish what you set out to do today. Okay, now some people might have a short attention span like I do. Some people can't focus very long on one thing. But let me encourage you about why you started in the first place. We all want to pay our bills. We all want to do something that we enjoy. So focus just for X amount of time. You only got to do it once today, and then you got to do it once tomorrow. It takes practice, self-discipline. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It's important to have daily or weekly goals. Otherwise, you're shooting in the dark and you're going to miss the target. It's important to accomplish those daily or weekly goals. You can't slack off because nobody is watching. Police yourself and act like the adult in the room. This is where self-discipline becomes an everyday practice, and it is an ever-evolving routine. You won't get it right overnight, and you might not be perfect in a year, but small steps in the right direction are never wasted. Okay? We don't beat babies up because they can't walk, and we don't beat them up because they can only take one step before falling. Small improvements eventually lead to Olympian runners. Okay, but we have to be patient with others, and we have to be patient with ourselves. Okay, say that to yourself no matter how many times a day you gotta say it to yourself, say it. It's important to structure your daily routine to reflect the steps necessary to reach your goals. If you're trying to bake a cake, don't start out with a hammer and nails. Examine the shape of your goal. Is it achieving a lesson or speed within a certain time frame? If so, how many hours or days will it take you to accomplish this? Play around with your goal until it fits your lifestyle and capability. Just because single Susan can finish theory in 6 months doesn't mean Martha Mary can too. Run your own race because the finish line is the same. Now, I'm speaking to myself and the rest of you stallers out there as well, because we think that practicing is being in our study space doing something else. Okay, that's not called focused practice. That's called doing anything but practicing. But you look like you might be because you're in the office with the door shut. Sit with that for a second, because I had to sit with it too. How do you create a daily goal or a weekly or monthly goal? I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad, because I'm about to explain it to you. This may take a day or so to sit down and really map out. Take all the time you need, because like steno theory education, you only have to do it once and then you just stick to it. Before you start a hike, don't you sit down first and figure out the path you're going to take. Before you build a tower, won't you first sit down and consider the cost, the materials, and the help you'll need along the way? Won't you consider seeking advice from wise counsel first? So this is especially helpful when you're in the beginning of your stenography education, but even if you're in the middle or just kind of wherever you're at in your steno journey as a student, you still have time to sit down, figure out where you are, be honest, and then map out the rest of the way. Because you can still go a straight shot to your goal, but you can also take the long way, take some unnecessary detour. Sit down, no matter where you are in your studies, and figure out what that straight shot looks like for you. And it's different for everybody. When you first start out to make your daily, weekly, or monthly goal, here are some ideas and general guidelines. Give yourself ample time to complete your goals and be realistic. If you have outside commitments that in total cost 50% of your day, don't promise yourself that you'll put in the other 50% towards your studies if you actually can't. And don't forget, eating and sleeping are necessary. In sum, don't set unrealistic expectations that you won't be able to fulfill later on. Alright, this is for all my theory students. Listen up, this is your turn. Here's your goal timetable. It typically takes about 6 to 8 months to complete theory. However, do not compare a full-time student to a part-time student. You need a year. If you need a year to complete theory, then set a goal for a year. Like I said, small steps in the right direction. If you can get it done in 3 months, then that's up to you. But what does your lifestyle look like? What are your commitments? Be honest, because if you're gonna lie to yourself, I mean, maybe go after something else, like learning to tell the truth to yourself. Alright, hours. Some students can dedicate 5 hours a day to studying, but you may be able to dedicate only 2 hours. Be realistic and be effective. Curriculum. Get out a calendar or create a table and write down week by week or month by month what you plan to accomplish. Allow room for any vacations or breaks that you need away from the machine. Again, it is not a crime to take a break. I checked. How many hours are you going to dedicate? How many goals are you going to accomplish? Who is going to hold you accountable for achieving your goals, and what will you have achieved at the end of every month or week? Plan for setbacks like illnesses, trips out of town, weddings, parties, birthdays. All that stuff is legitimate. Your life does not suddenly consist of steno because that's your career. You're not your career, and your career is not you. Take time out for your own life. Alright, this is for all you speed students, the speedsters. Goal timetable. It typically takes about a year or less to complete speed building, about a year more or less. However, if you do not compare a full-time student to a part-time student, I see that so many times. Single Susan and Mother Martha, and they're comparing themselves to each other. Don't do that. If you need more than a year to complete speed building, set a goal that matches accordingly. If you can get it done in a year or less, that's up to you to consider. Some people can, some people can't. Hours. How many hours are you going to dedicate to speed building? Obviously, the more the better, but you need to be realistic. Consider your lifestyle and commitments. I've said that over and over again because it's that important, and because that's the main trip up I've seen in so many students' studies. They didn't plan for needing a break. They didn't plan for, including their anniversary, or, obviously you can't predict life, but you want to have some wiggle room if possible. Consider your lifestyle and commitments. I like to set what are called non-negotiables. And a non-negotiable means something that you're going to do every day no matter what. For some people, a non-negotiable looks like they need to eat at least one protein every single time they sit down to eat something. Or a non-negotiable is, I'm going to work out for at least 5 minutes every single day. No excuses. I'm not negotiating. 5 minutes every day. Another example, a non-negotiable could be, I have to go to work every day because I have to pay my bills. There's no negotiation, no excuses. I don't have